Yes, guys, Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak, HE22, AI 9. These two will be playing with each other from this season at Liverpool. Of course, as we know, Liverpool got the deal done on deadline day for Alexander Isak. And yeah, man, I'm actually excited to see how he does. I'm actually excited to see how he does. But I think one of the main, kind of questions that everyone's got at this moment in time is how are the two going to fit together in Arne Slot's squad? Now, obviously before we take a look and take a dive in, big up to everybody. You guys already know I've already done videos on both Ekitike and Alexander Isak, looking at their playing styles, while also trying to see how they could potentially fit into a Liverpool side. Now, when I've done those videos, that was more looking at it from a perspective of if we get either or, kind of thing. Now we've actually got both of them. We've got to try and, well, I say we, but Arne Slot has obviously got to try and figure out a way in which he can get both of them into the side. Or is he going to rotate and rest one another, for different games and for different competitions? A lot of people have spoken about it. I've spoken about it as well. Ultimately, we don't know because ultimately we're not the ones in charge, of the football club or of the team, should I say. Arne Slot's going to obviously have to figure out that way. He's obviously had these conversations with a Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards in terms of getting in this player in the first place. What does that then mean, for the squad? I trust Slot enough to, well, at least give him the benefit of the doubt to know that, okay, you know what? He's got a plan. Whether the plan works or not, I do believe he's got a plan as to how this is potentially going to work. There's obviously players missing, players who might be injured. So who knows when we might see Liverpool's full strength team. And also, we don't actually know what that is at this current moment in time. And I'll go for a little team at the near towards the end of this video, where we take a look at basically how I think it could potentially work, the different formations that may work for Liverpool and Ekitike and Alexander Isak. But yeah, listen, look, these two, I mean, cost a pretty penny. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see, as I mentioned before, how Liverpool and how Arne Slot can obviously, fit them in. Obviously, this is the Liverpool squad for this season. They've got in, I think, all of the first team players, all the players who have now gone as well. So obviously, Simicast, Harvey Elliott, Keller, all these other guys are not in there. But you can see they've got it in like a 4-2-3-1. Obviously, that's what we've been kind of playing, what we have been playing since the start of the season, with Florian Wirtz obviously in that number 10 position. It's interesting that they've actually got Sabozalai as the other number 10, but I think, with his performances at right back, it looks like he might be using that position more so than he would be in the number 10. Left wing, yeah, I mean, you could look at that and think, is that going to be enough? Right wing, I don't know. They put Chiesa there, but we've seen him come on as the central striker. And then, yeah, midfield, as we know already, not the biggest fan of midfield, I will say that much, but it's just more to do with the fact that I do think that Liverpool do need to just maybe get in an extra player, in that kind of position, a player who can control the tempo of the game, allow Liverpool to gain that kind of control within games and not look so hectic. And I think that that would then have an adverse effect going the other way, because then Liverpool won't be so vulnerable, on the transition and the counter attacks at times. But listen, like I said, Arne Slot, clearly he's got his plan. He knows exactly, what he wants to kind of do. And listen, when we talk about Alexander Isak and we talk about, Ekitike, to me anyway, Alexander Isak is obviously coming in as the main guy. He's coming in as the Don Dada. He's coming in as the guy that, okay, I'm the number 9, all of that kind of stuff. And Ekitike for me was always going to be, kind of secondary to that. Now, with Ekitike starting so well in the season, that then creates not a problem. Well, it is a problem technically speaking, just because you've got two good players, one who's really in form and who is a young player who's obviously trying to get better, and then you've got the kind of already finished article. I wouldn't say he's a finished article just yet, because I still think that there is another level that Isak could potentially get to, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I think looking at it now, I'm just looking at the two. To me, they're quite similar in their playing style anyway. They're two players who like to drift out to that left-hand side when they've got the ball. Obviously, they can go out to that right-hand side. I would say potentially even maybe Isak more so than an Ekitike. Will that potentially work for Arne Slot? Would of course have to wait and see. Both like to drop deep. Both can tussle with defenders. We've seen Ekitike so far this season in the Premier League, the way he's kind of handled himself. Obviously, difficult game against against Arsenal, coming up against probably two of the best centre backs in the league in Gabriel and Saliba, before he obviously had to go off. So yeah, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, okay, fair enough. You know what I mean? You can handle yourself. You can handle yourself. I don't have problems with that. Oh, he's going to get bullied or anything like that. Ultimately, we're talking about two very good centre backs anyway. So I do expect you to struggle in those kind of battles. But we've seen Alexander Isak and how he's been, in these kind of games. So yeah, I think being able to get both of them to the team, to be honest with you, I mean, look, I'm throwing up all these like stats and stuff like that, and they're for you guys to more or less read and I guess look at it in your own kind of way. You know what I mean? Gain your own kind of perspective on it. My own perspective would just be, I still think, Alexander Isak is going to be the main guy in the team. I think he's going to be the main central striker. And then we're going to have to try and figure out a way in which we can get Ekitike, on the pitch. We've seen it at Manchester City so far with Marmoush, obviously, of kind of playing off that left-hand side again as well, sometimes in behind Haaland. So I mean, it kind of works there. Obviously, Marmoush isn't going to get the goals that Haaland gets. That's fair enough. And Ekitike, if he has to do that role, he's not probably going to get the goals that an Alexander Isak may potentially get, but it may work for the team. And I think I said this on Enza's stream the other day, I think yesterday, I believe, or a couple of days ago. And I said to him, or I said to the guys, ultimately, I think that it could probably work for the team. Individually, one of these two players will have to sacrifice their game a little bit. I don't believe that you can get the best out of those two, but I do think that it will work for the team. So almost like you could say almost like a Mane Salah, but even then, I mean, they played on opposite wings, so it's like you're kind of playing in positions that you're kind of comfortable with anyway. So is it going to be too much of a difference? No, not really. So yeah, I'm looking more so at one of them were, and again, like I said, it's probably going to be Ekitike. He's going to have to sacrifice his game just a little bit, playing off that left hand side. You're going to probably have to do a bit more work going back the other way than saying Isak would have to do. But ultimately, I don't want Isak, coming back and help. Like, obviously, you're going to help your team anyway in a general sense, but mainly I want him further forward. I want him to be giving the other centre backs more of a problem. And we've seen already what Isak has done to the entire league as it is, in terms of the fear that he strikes into these teams because of his finishing and his movement and his just overall general playing style. So yeah, for me, I can't wait to see that. I know a lot of people have spoken about, Ekitike and Isak, and they've likened them to potential, stardom, in the future, and they've compared them to players of the past, the Chris Suttons, the Alan Shearers, Dwight York, Andy Coles, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry. Who else is there? You got Anelka, Didier Drogba. There's so many, Sturridge, Suarez, Owen, Heskey, like Kane, Son. You know what I mean? There's a few of those, I believe, out there anyway for these two to be kind of compared to. And I think I don't want to compare because all of these players that I'm looking at, the Drogbas, the Anelkas, Henrys, like these guys are all kind of legends. You know what I mean? Maybe Bar Chris, but these guys are like legends and they're fantastic players in the game. If just based off of this list, I'll be more looking at it from a Dennis Bergkamp kind of Thierry Henry kind of thing, in terms of Henry, a player who likes to drift out to that left hand side. Someone like Dennis Bergkamp likes to stay in those kind of pockets of spaces, in those central areas, because he knows he can affect the game, better in those areas. But he also gets his as well. He will also score goals, not as much, of course, as Henry. Henry is Henry, but ultimately he still contributed quite a bit, and he was someone who could play through the middle if Arsenal needed to as well. Maybe also you can potentially compare it to a Sturridge, Suarez, maybe. Again, I feel like Ekitike would have to be the Suarez, I believe, in this kind of situation. Someone who just drifts everywhere. But then we've already got Florian Wirtz for that as well. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky one, like I said. But listen, this is what Arne Slot, of course, gets paid for. So he will know exactly what he needs to do. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, so Ekitike, he's come in, he's hit the ground, running since joining Liverpool. He looks like a very good player, man. Like I said, my expectations of him at the beginning of the season, obviously I kind of thought we would have had Isak in at the same time, but in terms of what he's shown me so far, I'm like, okay, he's got a little something about him. He's got a little something about him. He seems like a player who is really up to the task. He seems like he's understanding more or less what Arne Slot has asked him to do specifically, and he's affecting games early on. And I think you can't go wrong when you do things like that anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like if you come in straight away and you're scoring, bang, there you go, this goal, boom, we're gonna love you straight away. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And rightly so, and rightly so. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, listen. At first, I was still, and even now, I mean, my mind might probably change. Obviously, he's our player now. I was still looking, at someone like Ekitike, and I thought to myself, I don't know, man. Like I would still rather a different kind of profile because I don't like the same kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I want to see something a little bit different because when the game isn't going our way, and you've got, for example, if we had got Isak in earlier, if you've got Isak there and we take him off, I'm not saying you can't then still use an Ekitike if he's on the bench. Of course you would, but I would like a different kind of profile because if, for example, an Isak isn't working, what's Ekitike going to do that much differently to an Isak where you're like, they're completely different? You know what I mean? And it gives the opposition a completely different thing to think about. That's where my head was at. But listen, it is what it is. The type of player that Ekitike is obviously shown to be. You can see here with his kind of shot maps that he had whilst he was at Frankfurt. The shots that he's obviously taking, the goals that he's obviously scoring. You can see most of them, or all of them here, from what I can see, are inside the box. But he does take quite a lot of shots outside the box. We saw that against Crystal Palace, and the shot that he obviously took and scored just from, I think it was just outside the box, or if it was in, it was just in from the assist from Florian Wirtz. And I think when you've got someone who likes to take these kind of risks, I do think it can help the team at times because we do. Sometimes you look at attackers and you think the reason why they're so good is because obviously they trust in their own abilities and they're really good at what they do. But they're also players who, they take those risks. You can see here, like he's taking shots from wild places, from a lot of places here. Do you know what I mean? Outside of the box. And sometimes that can just catch people, do you know what I mean, off guard. And he is a player who can run in behind. He is a player who can get that ball plucked out from the air, control it, set it to someone else, or control it, hold it up, wait for the team to kind of, get themselves forward and things like that. As I mentioned before, he is someone who does like to drift out to that left-hand side as well. So again, these are things that obviously are going to help, in terms of his own playing style, but also in terms of what Liverpool may potentially need going forward. But like I said, I'm still intrigued as to how this is necessarily, going to work. And again, even on the pressing side of things, I think he's still learning. Obviously, he's just come, so I really don't expect him to be this amazing presser, of the ball or anything like that. But you can see he is someone who can do that side, of the game. We've seen him come back and work for Liverpool, getting himself back into our box to help out in defensive situations as well. So yeah, I think, like I said, I feel like it's going to be Ekitike more than anything who's going to have to kind of potentially sacrifice his game. But like I said, it's going to be for the betterment, in my opinion, of of the team. Now, AI9, I can't even lie. AI9, yeah, I like that. They're gonna have a lot. If he obviously, I don't think he would, but if he was to move like how Haaland did in his first season at Manchester City, right, where bang, 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 goals, 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 you trust me, you're gonna. In fact, I should do it first. You're gonna start seeing AI, AI, AI. You know what I mean? This is not real. This is fake. How can he do this, etc., etc.? We're gonna see all of that stuff with Alexander Isak real soon. Trust and believe. You know how these people kind of stay. But again, Alexander Isak, someone as we know can run in behind. You can see dropping deep to pick up the ball as well. So even here as well, I'm even shocked when I saw this. I was like, okay, yeah, he is someone who does like to drop deep. But one of the main things I really like with someone like Alexander Isak is his movement. His movement off the ball when that ball goes out wide or that ball's being set for a cross into the box. His movement is really good, and you can see here with his movement, running into those kind of channels to then finish chances off. And he is a very good finisher. I think we've seen more than enough of that. And I think if Liverpool play quick enough, you'll be able to get him in. Players like Florian Wirtz, I can see already, and I've done a video on talking about Florian Wirtz. But someone like Florian Wirtz, I feel that again, depending on how he's used and depending on what Liverpool are trying to do, once Liverpool kind of hopefully click soon, because at the moment you can tell it's all higgy, but once Liverpool click soon, I'm looking, at what Florian Wirtz can potentially bring to someone like an Alexander Isak, who is more of a striker. Now, whether he gets used as that is always going to be the big question. That's always my thing with Liverpool is we do a lot of square pegging, round holing kind of vibes. And sometimes I don't really like it because then we don't really get to see the best of that player. But ultimately, if it's best for the team, then whatever. But I'm hoping you signed this player, you signed him as a striker, give him the ball. we need to start seeing these passes a lot quicker at Liverpool. Sometimes I do think we have the runners, but we're not. Our decision making sometimes in the final third can be, yeah, sometimes yeah, it's just a little bit annoying. It is just a little bit annoying, but I do think Isak can play alongside an Ekitike. I do think he can play alongside a Mohamed Salah as well. Again, their roles might have to be a little bit different to facilitate him, but ultimately, I don't really care. Do you know what I mean? Right now, he's my guy. AI9 is going to be my guy. Do you know what I mean? Moving forward, especially because we've seen, of course, with Mohamed Salah, which we will talk about on another day. But again, it's just a movement for me. It really is the movement from Alexander Isak. I think that's what makes him so dangerous and so deadly. Picking up the ball from deep, affecting play. Even when he does pass the ball out wide. Obviously, here he can pass the ball on to three players, running on 3 against 3 at the back against Liverpool, funnily enough. But he's obviously got the ball. Can't remember what he did in this situation, but again, he's got those options and he's comfortable enough to bring the ball forward to then, find these kind of players playing out there on that left-hand side, as you guys can obviously see here as well. Again, comfortable. We saw the goal against Everton that he scored a couple seasons back. I want to say it was. Oh no. Sorry, he didn't even score it. He did a Suarez. If you guys ever remember, Dirk Kuyt scoring, was it his hat trick goal against Manchester United at Anfield? And Suarez had done that mazy run, done all the work, and then my man just on the line, just took the goal away, kind of thing. Isak can do those kind of things though. Isak really, really can. So maybe, maybe I was saying maybe, Ekitike would have to be the Suarez. Maybe Isak would have to be the Suarez in this situation and Ekitike be a Daniel Sturridge. Listen, whatever works. Suarez was eating like no man's business. So if you can do it to that effect, then that'll be an absolute amazing signing. Do you know what I mean? One of the best signings ever, to be honest with you. But again, like I said, all of these shots here, it's just really about his movement. That's something that I do think, and as you can see here on the centre backs blind side, the two centre backs, I'm assuming, the two centre backs. I mean, he's even got three players there anyway, and then one even in behind him. None of them are even aware that he's even there. Or none of them seem to be able to, or in this shot anyway, they don't even seem like they're able to even get out to him. Do you know what I mean? Why? Because of the position that he's taking out. And I always feel like with Liverpool, we'll play balls into the box, but there's no one there. Ekitike's dropped deep because he's gone and done whatever. Florian Wirtz is obviously still making his way into the box. Salah's now probably, and it's usually Salah's got the ball or someone on that right-hand side has got the ball. We're waiting, and nothing's really happening. I don't really see a lot of crosses like that from that left-hand side that don't go out to the back stick. I want to start seeing Gakpo or whoever's on that left-hand side. I want to start seeing play into that space that you guys can see here. There's only one place that this ball can go right now. Literally, in order for him to score, there is only one play, unless he checks back. But then by the time he's checked back, the opposition defenders have got enough time to be able to get there and etc. In these positions, you're going to either dink that in. I don't know what he did in the shot, but you're either going to dink it in with his left foot or he has to drill that across into that space between the goalkeeper and Alexander Isak. And Isak's got to tap in home. There's nobody around him. And again, sometimes I just think that we don't really do that enough. Yes, we will do the drilled crosses, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying we don't cross, but the crosses are always very, like I said, Salah gets the ball, wants to play it to the back stick. And sometimes, if we're lucky, Frimpong's ran down the wing or Bradley's ran down the wing. Neither of them are that great in putting the ball in the box as it is. So it's just kind of put into the box kind of thing without really looking to see. I feel like if you've got a striker like Isak in there, obviously they'll be working on it in training. I feel like when you've got him there, you need to be saying, no. Like, I'm going to be in this position. You just make sure that you play it in there. Trust me, I'll be there. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, we can see here with all the, let's take that off the screen. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to see exactly, how this would potentially, work for Liverpool moving forward. I think it's going to be an interesting one to kind of just see Arne Slot's kind of, tactical acumen, if I'm being totally honest with you. Will he be able to, show everybody that he can actually, coach these two players into becoming two very, very good players for Liverpool moving forward? Obviously, you guys can see at the bottom of your screen, well, bottom of the screen in itself. Yeah, I was just playing around with like tactics and stuff. Again, whatever the players that you want to put there, you can put there. I've seen so many different things. This is just like one, 4-2-3-1 that we're kind of already playing. As I mentioned before, you'd have Ekitike, on that kind of left-hand side, but maybe not so much on that left. Almost, if I'm being honest with you, I almost feel like at times what will end up happening, and we saw it against, Arsenal did it against Liverpool. when they were pressing us, they were pressing us in the first half anyway. They were pressing us in like a 4-4-2. I feel like at times Liverpool may potentially go into that. So you're gonna have this here. So you got Salah up there. Florian Wirtz will probably drift out potentially out wide there, or he could potentially drift out wide there, or even Szoboszlai, to be honest with you, either or. And then you kind of got this formation here. So you got the 4-4-2 within that. Like I said, either it will be Florian Wirtz or Szoboszlai. I can see Szoboszlai actually going out there, to be fair. But either or kind of coming in, and maybe a little bit more narrow, with Salah being really the only one who may stay out of his position, which will obviously then, give Martinelli, then give Frimpong the option of either he's jumping to that left winger, whoever that might be, or operating in this kind of space here. But I feel like that might be something that we might see. Again, this is more, I guess, out of possession more than anything else with Liverpool. Other position or other things I've seen is, I think I've seen four. Let's do it. 4-3-1-2. So let's just put him here, and then you've got kind of like that. Or let's swap him, and then put Salah in that kind of 1-2. So Salah could potentially be someone. Again, this is, don't get so bogged down with the player. Like, you can put any player there that you feel could potentially be in that position. I'm just more showing you for formation's sake anyway, with both Isak and Ekitike in there. But again, you can look at this and say this could potentially work. Again, the width would then literally have to be, Kirkes, bombing up and down, that side. And again, Frimpong, they would have to be quite high. I would genuinely think. Would that then give us maybe a bit more stability? Do you know what I mean? Going forward, I don't know. Whether you have Florian Wirtz as one of the three, whether you have him as that one behind the two in itself, but we will then be relying, in my opinion, quite heavily on our fullbacks to provide that width. Whether they're good enough to be able to do that, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not saying that they can't do it. It's just whether they're going to be good enough, for us moving forward. But this could be one way, and I already know. Everybody's already saying that they would like to see, let's even change it from now. So let's say you put in McAllister as an example. So you got Florian Wirtz in there. Then some people want to see this. Do you know what I mean? I know some of you. I already know. Ends, I know it's you. Ends, I know it's you. Jerry, I know it's you. Savage, I know it's you. But something potentially like this, where a Salah then doesn't, isn't playing. You've still got your 4-3-1-2 here, but then obviously it's Ekitike and Isak. Again, like I said, it's just really, for me, it will just be more about the team are going to really need to understand, and they're really going to have to work as a unit. But maybe giving Florian Wirtz this kind of freedom here, this area here, for him to run up and down this kind of wing, be able to, he won't, and in my opinion, if you do this anyway, and again, this is all based upon whether or not Kirkes and Frimpong for me, but if you do this, maybe then he doesn't need to keep dropping so deep. And then we don't need everybody, because usually what's happening is they all drop deep here. Isak, who would usually be Mohamed Salah, for example, just kind of plotted out here, and he's, kind of doing his thing. This guy, whoever the left back is obviously gone here. That centre back is obviously going to be engaged with him. Then they usually kind of come round into like a three at the back. You're leaving one up front. You could potentially do that, like I said, but I don't necessarily always need both of them. I don't always need both of them. One of them is, for me, is more than enough. And the fact that Wirtz and Ekitike are comfortable with going out into those kind of wide areas, Wirtz, I would say more so, he's comfortable going out here, potentially forming a triangle with the centre midfielder here, and then the number 9, and then obviously himself, or whether it's with, say, a Frimpong, centre midfielder here, Florian Wirtz, he can create those triangles there, and then he can also create those triangles on this side of the pitch as well, with the left back and the left side is central midfielder, but also with Ekitike up front as well. So maybe this might actually, in turn, as I mentioned before, about it helping the team more than it actually helps a player individually. We may not see Florian Wirtz get the goals, and I'm going to be shocked if he does do really, really well, because I think the only way you can do number 10, so to speak, you're going to kind of need to play it the way Chelsea played Cole Palmer, to be honest with you. And even then, he's like a right winger, but not a right winger. It's weird. He's like a right attacking midfielder. That's the way I see, someone like Cole Palmer. But he does have license to be able to roam. Do you know what I mean? So again, he's going to need, Cole Palmer's got, Malagusto or Reece James on that right hand side, to be able to help him out in those kind of positions. But we do see with Cole Palmer, sometimes, as I mentioned, I've seen him out on that left. I've seen him just drift here, when the team, is kind of set up potentially, like this. I've seen him out on the right. Again, he's just drifting, he's walking, you know what I mean? He's just kind of seeing where he can affect the game best. And I think if that's going to be something that Liverpool are going to do, again, listen, I'm all for it. I just want to see something different. I just want to see good football. And I think that's the main thing for me going forward. Listen, if you're winning games, no one's going to complain. No one really cares. And I do totally understand that. But I would like to generally see, some good football, from Liverpool moving forward. So again, how Ekitike and Isak fit into the team, honestly, I don't know. Is he just going to go with the 4-3-3? I mean, we've spoken about Florian Wirtz already. I mean, I don't know why this can't potentially be a thing. Put Isak over there. I mean, you could potentially do that, or if you want to put him there, Florian Wirtz, even on that kind of side. Then again, it's not necessary to say you're going to stay there because the team might go into that 4-3-1-2 shape anyway, or the 4-4-2 out of possession, regardless. But you're just giving Florian Wirtz that kind of freedom. At the moment, I'm seeing Florian Wirtz doing quite a lot of running. I don't know if that's necessarily going to help. I don't know if, again, Arne Slot's thinking, what, we've got a central striker, we've got someone who's a bit of a killer up front. Maybe now we need to start gearing our game towards that, and how can we best do that is we need to get runners in either side of someone like an Isak, because we know he's fantastic in the box. We know what he can do, but once he's got those runners and he's got options and they've got options, I think it makes it a lot more easier, for Liverpool, moving forward. But again, I would love to know how people kind of see it. Like I said, I've seen quite a lot of videos. Quite a lot of people have obviously spoken, in regards to, both Alexander Isak and, Hugo Ekitike. I almost forgot his name. So I just want to know from you guys in the chat, or in the comment section, should I say, what do you guys kind of think? Do you think that Liverpool, Arne Slot, Ekitike, Isak, do you think it can work? And if so, drop your formations in the comment section. I'd love to see what you guys obviously think moving forward. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to say that Isak's going to score a bucket load of goals. Obviously, he's already 3 behind. Ekitike at the moment, so he needs to catch up. You know what I mean? He needs to catch up. We've also got another penalty taker, as we've seen now with someone like Isak coming in. So that's going to be an intriguing battle, with Mohamed Salah. But I still think Salah will be, the main guy. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section about this. Ekitike, Alexander Isak, can it work moving forward? Let me know. Catch you guys soon.